Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge here with the Firestorm Showcase. This is a type of video I really wanted to do back in Moonrise, just like proxying up some of the new decks, showing them off ahead of release, and seeing what they can do. But I didn't end up having time for it. I have time for it this time. We have about a month until Firestorm releases, and tons of new really cool archetypes being introduced in this set. So I think it would be useful to go over them and see how they play out in action. For these first four videos covering the four focus divines, I'm going to be playing these decks against a pre-existing successful strategy. In this case, it will be heal control, so that we can establish this baseline, and then going on from there, we will have a mix of decks that we'll be fighting against, probably one game each. But first, we have Hestia Spiders. The core identity of this deck is that Hestia is a very powerful card because of the way it allows you to flood your board really quickly and just take over the game because of that. However, it has two key issues. It has a hand size issue because it demands you have two Elestrals, including one Fire Elestral. And it has a spirit efficiency issue because you're paying two spirits for each of those uses. Spiders is the perfect archetype to fix both of those issues. Because Spiders has a Reckoning Slayer, which turns every spider you cast into a draw one, fixes the hand size issue really, really fast. And it's also got the combo with Warmight Champion of Hestia and Hestia's Hearth, which is an absurdly powerful combat trick that flips combat more than Argo Necklace, while flipping the spirit advantage by like 3 to 5 spirits. You put 2 spirits, you pay 1, you put 2 spirits onto your Warmight, you heal 2, and then if your opponent was swinging into the Warmight with a 1 spirit Celestial, they're also going to take 2 spirits in damage. So it's like a 5 spirit swing, 3 to 5 spirit swing. And that really helps make up for the spirit inefficiency of Hestia, in addition to just taking over the game in general. We've got like a bunch of the staple fire stuff in here. We have the Kinleos because like we have a Stadium in here, we have Hearth in here, we have a Define in here. Lots of ways to get Kinleo up to speed. Kite Mai is another powerful card that can allow us to double dip on Lair, but has a big weakness to Gorgon's Gaze. Jolton is like the prime searcher for Lair because we can cast out Lair, get Lair, play out Lair, then we play Hestia and special cast out a Spider to draw that turn, which is the big advantage it has over Flarkney, which asks you to play out Lair on a turn that you've already spent your normal cast and can't benefit from it, which is really, really not great. We've got Lavalith in here, of course, because we're on fire. And then just some basic counter run stuff. I would like to fit like a third Hestia or one copy of Elechek or a copy of Ash Rabbit. Those both have some pretty powerful synergies that would work well in the deck. But there just isn't the space for it. If we had a 41st card slot, it would be either the Elechek or the Ash Rabbit. You could like cut the second original Warmight for that if you really want to make that fit. Or one of the counter runes, but I don't think that's a particularly good idea. But yeah, let's get right into the games. All right, here we are with game 1. It is going to be up against Adrian playing the heal control deck, literally the list that Julian won the most recent premiere with. We are going to be opening with Expend to Draw. We did not see the Jolton. He is going to be opening with an Ash Rabbit in attack that is going to be able to punch in for damage and threaten Argo. We're just going to take that, set up some fires in our underworld so that we have them there for when we are trying to go for a Hestia's Hearth play. Because we do need like 3 fires in our underworld already for that play line. So it's very important, especially if you don't have Hestia in your hand already, to have access to that. We're going to go for Jolton. That's going to meet a PTA. This is probably the biggest misplay Adrian makes in this game, as we'll go into it. I searched for the layer here. He talked about after the game how he regretted this PTA, but the PTA isn't necessarily a problem. It's regarding the other back row he has. But we're going to search the layer, play out the layer, and then I do believe we have the Hestia. Yes, we have the Hestia here, so we're just going to load that up with a full 4. so we can get 2 uses out of it across the game. And since we have an equal number of Elestrals, we can disenchant 2 from the Hestia to cast out the champion Warmite, immediately get draw off the layer. And this is the big misplay, of course. The Gorgon's Gaze could have been used on the Jolton to stop the layer from coming down. But we're just going to crash the Jolton into the Astrabbit. And also, like, Gorgon's Gaze doesn't really do a whole lot on the Warmite, to be honest. He's going to go Lumaru plus a Zeus. He's going to be using the Zeus so that he can play around my Hestia's Hearth, any Hestia's Hearth I might have. Because even if I Hestia's Hearth, we would both be at 0 attack, and they would bounce off each other. Yeah. The Scythe is probably a bit of an overcommitment here, though. It does prevent me from, like, using Hestia's Hearth to cancel the attack, but I still wouldn't be able to flip combat against this Numeru. But we are going to go for Kineo here. This was honestly a bit of a difficult choice here. Because I believe we drew... No, this isn't the turn we drew into Pregnate. That was another game. But we're going to go special cast out the Kineo while we have Tide Elestrals, before using the Kite Mite to go into Water Enchanted Warmite. I do this pretty frequently with this deck, because, like, Hearth can proc on receives on a previously misenchanted Warmite anyways. So it can be very, very potent to do that sort of thing, and you're still going to get the draw. And then Kineo, we have already gotten some really good value out of layer, so we're just going to get rid of the layer so we can start getting Kineo popping the field, so that we don't have to worry about any Argos. And this puts us in just a hugely advantageous position. Even like if the Kineo got Gorgon's Gazed, we have dropped down the Lumaru, and we would have been able to use the Hearth to get over it if we really needed to. But we are now going to use the Hearth play against this Calfmel. It is just going to be a bounce. Now, I do want to note something here. This play I do where I heal 4 is actually illegal. Bear in mind that if your Warmite is misenchanted at the time that the Hestia's Hearth begins resolving, so before the spirits have been put on, it will not trigger the on-cast effect of the Warmite, because it doesn't have its effect to see it being cast at that time. So do be aware of that part if you're trying to do any tricky misenchant stuff using the Warmites, which can be pretty powerful even despite that. But yeah, it's very, very nice. It's still so strong, especially if you can get this, like, properly enchanted double Warmites on the field. Like, we still could have done it by, like, paying off the Kineo. I don't think we had any fire stuff in deck at this stage, which is why we had to pay off the field. But there would have been certainly ways to do it pretty profitably, and be able to get our heal 4. But just bear that ruling in mind when you're playing this deck. But this is a really good example game of what this deck is capable of, because this is a game where we got out Hestia, and we're just able to overwhelm the board, and just completely take over the game. Like, it's really hard to win back the board from this position. And yeah, Adrian just scoops it up from there, because, like, it's so hard to win back board from this stage. We were out of counter runes at this point, but we had so many guys to continue clearing the board and just continue winning with our 3 Elestral to his 1 Elestral normal cast advantage. Like, we have such a huge board advantage, and it's so hard to come back from that. All right, so here we are with game 2, which is actually game 1, which is why I will be going first again, because I flipped around the order of these, because, like, this worked better for, like, showing off the weaknesses and strengths of the deck in the order I really wanted it to be. So we are going to open once more with the Jolton. We're doing that on turn one instead of needing to expend to draw to find our way to it. Best case scenario is doing it here, so we can just go, okay, we don't have to worry about an interruption on Jolton. We can just get the layer safely to our hand. We don't have any back row, though. This is a bit of a weird hand to keep. And it was kind of really detrimental to keep this in the end. But we are on a lower, like, generically usable back row count in this deck. But we get hit by a Lumaru Mill, which is really not great. We lose the Paracne here. But we have the lair, so we can start going for some plays here. So we go for the lair. And we will go directly for the Paracne, which is going to be able to get over the Lumaru while also drawing us a card. We're still not finding any counter runes, though, which is really not a great place to be. We have the Hearth, but the Hearth is only a good back row with the Warmite specifically, which is the big weakness of the card. Despite how powerful the play is, it's only good with one specific Celestial. And if you don't have that, the card isn't doing a whole lot. So we end up running into the Argo and getting hit with another Mill 3, losing a Hestia, which is one of the main ways we could like force our way back into this game by spending a lot of spirits, just like get multiple things on the board and force our way over our opponent's board. So this is really not like an ideal place for us to be. He's casting out the Elestrals, getting the Zeus. And he is below us on spirits, but like Heal doesn't care about that. It's just going to spend a lot of spirits to get itself in an advantageous position, and then use the healers to get itself back up to parity and continue to play cards. We are going to go for a Kite Might here to go for the double draw. So we're going to get to draw a card off Kite Might here. And then we're going to go for the Disenchant. But here we run into the big weakness of Kite Might, where when you go for this Disenchant, you can just get Gorgon's Gazed here and lose your body. And if you don't have Hestia to force another cast, that can be devastating. It's the big reason like I'm not on 3 copies of the card, because you really don't want to be too reliant on it. You don't want to see it too often. It's a card that you want to like try and force out Gorgon's Gazes with other things before going for Kite Might, because the Kite Might line is extremely powerful and extremely high value when you get it off. But if you don't get it off, it doesn't do a whole lot. The other problem we're running into here, and like, is that we're just not drawing into our champion Warmites. Like a champion Warmite would get us right back into the game. If that Kite Might had resolved, we probably would have gotten back into the game because we have a Hearth face down, and we would have been able to use that to flip combat on its head, get back a lot of spirits, and put ourselves in a really good position. But we just don't have the capacity for that. We just are not drawing into that Warmite, and our way of forcing our way to it has been stopped. Yeah, this is just really, really not ideal. The original Warmites are not doing anything for us. None of our Elestrals at the moment are really doing anything for us. Nothing that will really like help us force our way through that back row, which is what we really need to be doing right now. We're going to Gorgon's Gaze this Arclith, which is our first real back row that we've seen, but we're still taking 4 total on this turn, and we're just in a really, really bad spot. We see the Tsunami, and we're going to go Warmite, attempt to get over this Arclith. We draw into his shield, and we drew into Tsunami for turn, so we have some back row now, but we're so low on spirits that it's going to be difficult for us to bring this back with this. And he flips the second copy of Argo and says like, yeah, that's just a wrap. That's just a wrap. All right, and here we are with our final game. We are actually back to the actual game 3 now. So Adrian will be going first on Heal Control. He will be running out a Lumaru just to establish some board presence. This isn't like a normal Heal Control play, but I feel like it's an adaptation he's trying to make based on like one of the things that spiders really do is they run away with board control. with the board presence, and Heal has a really hard time dealing with that. So we're going to Warmite down the Lumaru and go in. We're going to run into an Argo here. A like Astrabbit wouldn't have been sufficient with this necklace, but a Lumaru with its 5 attack is going to be sufficient with this Argo necklace play. I actually did specifically go for the original Warmite here, knowing okay, if he Argos, if we do this Warmite, he won't be able to go for the scythe. He'll have to go for the necklace specifically, so we can extract more spirits from him that way, which is really good for us. We are now going to go for the Warmite, Champion of Hestia, get ourselves a draw, drop down the Calfmel, and then do we have something else here? Oh yes, we have the Cryoblast in hand here. So we're going to use the Cryoblast to clear the Lumaru after we've gotten some extra spirits out of the necklace. Yeah, we had this Cryoblast in hand from the start, and I was considering using it if he like Gorgons or PTA turn 1, but I wanted to force out the Argo if you can, get 2 spirits out of the necklace, and then clear it with ease with the Cryoblast, and then get over the Calfmel with our Warmite. He does get the heal up, of course. So we're not exactly in like an advantageous spirit position, a particularly advantageous spirit position yet, but we're doing okay. We're going to expend to draw on our turn. He also expends to draw on his turn. He is now going to go for the Lavalith, which, yeah, unfortunately, any Spider plus Stadium does give the conditions for Lavalith to be live. But we have 4 back row at the moment. We ended up putting down 4 back row because we drew into Hearth last turn. It was like, well, I already have 3 back row, but Hearth is so powerful with Champion Warmite, so we're gonna set it down as a 4th. If we die to Hurricane, we die to Hurricane. I say that, but this doesn't have Hurricane. But the Lavalith is going to get Tsunami'd here because he's Zeus'd down my Warmite. Being very aware of what Hearth can do in this position, because if I Hearthed here, it would cause a bounce off. It would not kill the Lavalith, and I'm opting to, okay, there's some better things I can be doing here. So I'm going to go for Kinleo out of hand. I'm like, this was a bit of a tricky position because I drew into Procne. I was like, this Kinleo is so obviously correct, but if I go for it, I'm not going to be able to use this Procne. But it's like, no, the Kinleo is better here. So we go for the Kinleo, attempt to take out the Lavalith with the effect, and he's going to Gorgons to stop the Kinleo from destroying the Lavalith. We're fine. We still have 2 back row, including a Hearth. So we are still in like a very solid position. I believe we have the second Kinleo in our hand as well. So we can threaten to pop this Lavalith again next turn. Yeah. And he spends out his Zeus. So now we are in a position where we can safely utilize our Hearth on a later turn. The second Kinleo is going to come down, pop the Lavalith, and we're going to get in for 3 damage. He's going to use Ambrosia to heal himself up some, but this is a bit of a difficult position. I believe he has another Lith here, if I recall how this game went. Yes, he has an Arcalith here. And he's going to use the Arcalith to get up to 5 and go in for a bunch of damage. However, if his read on the Hearth was correct, then this is going to go very badly for him because we're going to be able to double proc the Warmite and drop Arcalith down to 0 attack. He is attacking into Kinleo, which is absolutely the correct play here. Though actually, with Arcalith specifically, it doesn't actually matter, because with Arcalith specifically, Arcalith is going to have so many spirits that you're not going to take any blowback damage from the Warmite. But we're still going to drop the Arcalith down to 0. We are doing this in attack step, because if he has the Gorgons for the Warmite, we do want to be able to use our own Gorgons to stop the attack, so we don't lose our Warmite, and we can still kill Neonexus next turn. But he does not have the Gorgons to stop the Warmite effect from happening. So we are just going to ascend over our Kinleo with the Lavalith, end up popping the shield, and that is just going to be a wrap there. And that's the deck. As you can see, like it's very, very powerful. The one of the hardest things to come back from in Elestrals is like a wide board. If you lose Elestrals advantage, it is very, very hard to come back into that game. And this deck just excels at establishing a wide board, and having the card draw to have the counter runes to back it up and continually have follow up plays. It's really, really crazy. This deck feels really, really strong. It doesn't matter how much you heal if you're just completely behind on board advantage and just can't take it back at all. Especially since one of Heal Control's big strengths is you're trying to run your opponent out of cards, so that you end up in a really, really strong position where you can just freely run out your heal guys while getting in damage and just like run away with the game from there. Like one of the big things Argo does is it gives you big card advantage. It creates a big card advantage swing. But Spiders functions in such a way where you're getting so much card draw that you're not really losing much there. And you have an equally, if not more powerful card advantage swing with the Hestia's Hearth, which is like, I cannot express enough. That combo is so, so powerful. Like, Hestia's Hearth is just such a powerful card, and if we get more good targets for this card's going to become even stronger than it already is. Like, the biggest thing holding back this card at the moment is that there aren't a whole lot of good targets for it. You've got, like, the Warmite, of course. You have, like, getting another spirit on the board so that you can Kineo without losing a body. You've got giving Hestia another usage, which didn't come up in this game, but is another usage you can get out of Hearth. And you've got Ash Rabbit procs, but in the large scheme of things, that is like a pretty narrow set of uses, especially since only one of those is particularly strong. The others aren't that good. The one you really want is the Warmite play. If we get more good use cases for this card, if we get more good targets for this card, not necessarily in Spiders, just in like in Hestia in general, that card's going to become so, so strong. It's already very, very good. But yeah, this deck is really, really impressive. We only fought against an existing old deck, an existing Moonrise deck today. But as we get into more decks, we will be bringing back the decks we've covered already as some of the things that the decks will be going up against. So you can get so that you can start getting an idea of how the Firestorm matchups end up looking, because that's also very important. We need to establish a baseline of how these decks perform against what is already successful in Moonrise, but you also need to see how they're going to perform into the new stuff in Firestorm, because the new Firestorm stuff is just really, really strong. It changes the meta significantly. Then you know that's the important data. But that's going to be it for today. For our first 4 videos, we're going to be covering each of the focus divines of the set. So that's going to be Hestia, Hermes, Zeus, and Poseidon. So next up, we will be covering a deck revolving around the Hermes Divine Rune. I hope you guys look forward to that, and I'll see you guys next time.